Could your heart be influencing your decisions, influencing your emotions and your internal world more than you think? Let's explore the different and many facets of the heart together and may just have you think of some things that you hadn't really considered before. So, what is the heart? What is it? When I say the word heart, when I say, where is your heart or what is your heart? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Yes, I'm going to pause and give you time to answer that. What kind of picture do you have? What comes to mind first? We're going to talk about 3 different lenses in which to view the heart. And this might be where most people went to, first of all, I don't know, but a lot of people think of their physical organ as the heart. We know that our heart is vital for our bodies to be alive and active in this world. And so the heart is seated right here at the center of our chest, and it is what allows our bodies to truly function. It's like that center, right? That is what our doctors would say, or from an anatomical standpoint. That's our physical heart. Now, if a psychologist or a psychiatrist or somebody in the mental health field would say, okay, well, the heart, we would look at the heart as many call it the seat of the emotions. No, they don't. That's my third point. They would call it the subconscious. There we go. So the subconscious. So the sub meaning below. What is below your awareness? And I love this picture of the iceberg. To me, this is one of the most vivid pictures when we think about conscious and subconscious, what we are aware of and what we're not aware of. Look at how big the iceberg is below the surface of the water. That is what I am referencing as our subconscious. That's what we're not aware of. And then the 5% at the top, that's what we are aware of. And so that's how we distinguish between the subconscious. So a lot of people call the heart the subconscious. Now, in the Bible, in the Hebrew language, the Hebrew speak of the heart as the seat of the emotions, the will, and the intellect. This is where our motives, we get to really understand where our motives are coming from. It's in the seat of the emotions. It's in the seat of the heart inside of us. Let's explore just a little bit more this scientific perspective of the heart. And we're going to camp out here a little bit because this is so beautiful to me, and it helps me understand so much how we are truly just incredibly made. You know, a lot of times in the Psalms, was it 139? There's a lot of folks, and they'll quote, "We are fearfully and wonderfully made," when they're feeling unworthy. And they want to remember their worth and value. I'm not laughing at that, but there's more. There's so much more to that verse. Yes, we are worthy. Yes, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. But my goodness, the more I understand about how our human body is made, it is incredible. It truly is incredible. And I want to talk about the heart a little bit here from that science standpoint, because there's been some research here in the last, I guess it was in the mid-90s, early 90s, mid-90s, we began to understand some things about the heart. And up in this left-hand corner, you'll see the heart and what they've discovered. And let me take a look here at my notes, because I really want to make sure that I give you everything here. I didn't know what I was diving into when I began to pick up on learning some things from Heart Math Institute. This caught my attention back when I was in grad school, back in the mid 2000s. But HeartMath Institute began to do some research and study on the physical heart. And what they found out was that the heart itself, our heart organ, contains neurons, sometimes called the heart brain. And they are neurons that function independently from the neurons in your brain, but yet they're made very similar like the neurons in your brain. This little brain in the heart consists of about 40,000 neurons and is capable of remembering, of learning, of making decisions separate and apart from the central nervous system. You know, so many times we think of the neurons, or we think of remembering, we always think of our brain. Well, what science is starting to understand now is that our physical heart has a portion that has the capability, and it has neurons, and it has ways to remember things separate and apart from the brain in our skull. So if this is the first time you're hearing this, just hang with me here a little bit. This is pretty fascinating and pretty powerful. So there's this, if you see the image below, I have the image, you can see the brain is lit up, and then there's the neuro pathways. All these nerves, our body are filled with nerves, and there's this one main nerve called the vagus nerve, and it has a very good connection between the brain to the heart, which is really what we're going to capitalize on today, and then the other major organs. The vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and it is a communicator. It is like a highway back and forth, communicating information. The organs and the other parts of the body communicating to the brain, and the brain is communicating to the other organs. But it's specifically, we're going to talk about the communication between the heart and the brain because they are so connected. So connected. So it's an information highway. This vagus nerve sends information from the brain to the various organs. And this is key. This is key for us to understand. When you understand the value and the importance of the vagus nerve, is that it is responsible. It's a key player in our parasympathetic nervous system. I know we're getting into a little science class here, but the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for your rest and digest. It's responsible for your body feeling like it's at rest so that it can heal, restore, digest food, and not be in this constant fight or flight and run and hide mentality or state. We don't want the heart in that state when it's trying to rest and repair. Matter of fact, it won't be able to. So science is learning this vagus nerve is so key, and it connects the brain and the heart. I talked about how the heart and the brain, how it has like this highway. The vagus nerve acts as this highway. And it's just like a 6-lane highway can handle a lot of traffic. That's the amount of traffic that the heart begins to send up to the brain. It's like a 6-lane highway where the brain communicates to the heart with a 2-lane, more of like a 2-lane highway. So there's definitely more communication going from the heart to the brain. And yeah, so this third image is not exactly the picture that I wanted. I couldn't use the picture I wanted without copyright infringements, but I wanted to communicate that the heart is emanating a field of energy. Guys, don't be afraid of that word. It's yielding. Your cardiologist knows this. Okay. It is yielding this field, and it is 5,000 times greater than that that emanates from the brain. 5,000 times. That is, no, it's not I'm not misquoting there. It is about 5,000 times. Let me read this to you. The electromagnetic fields that the heart produces is much stronger than the brain's. In fact, the electromagnetic field is about 5,000 times more powerful than that of the brain. This field can be detected several feet away from the body. This is measurable, guys. They can measure this. The heart's influence, it's central to our emotional experiences. It can influence our thoughts and perceptions, often acting in a powerful center in intuition and emotion. The heart and the brain communicate continuously, but the heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. If you were, let's say, walking down, you were taking a hike, or you were walking and you saw something brown and squiggly on the ground. If your heart leaps first, it may signal because it wants you to be safe, right? So it signals, and then it takes a few moments for the brain to process and say, oh, that's not a snake, that's a stick. And then the nervous system calms down, right? The heart fires first. I know that's that's just a little example there. But the key thing that I want us to take away from these pictures, is that there is more to your heart. There's more to the nervous system. There is communication going on between your heart and your brain. And your heart is emanating. If you are afraid, I don't care what you say, you can feel that you're afraid. You can tell me till the cows come home that you're not stressed, but if I can feel and sense stress and actually see it in your body, you're stressed, okay? And the same is true if you're trusting and loving and relaxed. Let's see what our next slide is. I think this one is on, yes, I just want to hit one more time too. We hit the physical aspect of it again. So now we're going just a few moments into the psychological aspect. I love this picture of the iceberg. I know I said that before, but it is so telling in so many ways. So 95% of who you are, 95% of who I am, is subconscious. Some people refer to the non-conscious. It is that part that we are unaware of, yet it is driving, it is motivating, it is causing us to live our lives the way that we do. 95%. And sub meaning it's below our awareness. We could not possibly be aware of all of our motives, all of our habits, all of our patterns, all of our unfinished or unprocessed pain. We could not even be aware of all the things that make us, even sequences of how we do things well and automatically, and all. We couldn't be aware of that all the time. We would not be able to function. So in God's wisdom, 95% of it is out of our awareness. And the tip of the iceberg is what we see. That's what we are aware of. And that's what other people see. And in the Power of Heart Conversations, we are going to learn how to create safety so that we can not only discover what is below the surface of our awareness for the purpose of transformation and change, but we also want what's below the surface, what is motivating us to have strong roots, to have heart conversations that are built in truth and life-giving, so that the automatic parts of us are moving, so that signal between the heart and the brain really have what's called a coherence. It has life-giving, I'm going to put it in my words, it has life-giving heart conversations exchanging to and from so that we are living out a life that really generates life. So 95% of us, that's a big part. That's why when you get frustrated with somebody, you're just looking at the tip and you're failing to see what's driving them. And then lastly, I put here that the body keeps score because I want us to also recognize subconsciously. I think one of the best pictures or images I have received here over the last 2 or 3 years is understanding that my subconscious is really how my body holds all of this unknown material to me, unknown patterns, unknown feelings, and whether it's, again, things that are working for me or working against me. The body keeps the score of our painful past. The body keeps score. That's why we can see a situation or have an encounter with somebody and it triggers something in us so quickly, so automatically, because it's like it hits something that our body is carrying, and so the body as the subconscious just makes a lot of sense to me, because now it's like with our brains we think, but with our bodies we feel. And I might have very clear thoughts about where I want to improve my life, but if I'm not aware of what is happening subconsciously, if I'm not aware of what my body has been holding on to, then inevitably it's going to show up. It's going to make itself known in one way or another. And so The Body Keeps Score is actually a title of a book that was written by a Dr. Vanderkolk, and I hope I'm giving his name its due, Vanderkolk. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps Score, and he had this groundbreaking, content around how the body literally reshapes itself with trauma, how it literally reshapes and has this way of setting up patterns in our brain. But here's the thing, and he says this too, it's not irreversible, but it's subconsciously, this is how we're carrying ourselves until we learn how to choose and live newer heart conversations. Okay, let's take a quick look at the biblical insight as it relates to the heart. Solomon, in the book of Proverbs, he wrote how we should guard our heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. And in our Hebrew definition of the heart, we're looking at the seat of the emotions. We're looking at our will. We're looking at also aspects of our intellect. And I found that was really interesting too. Let's go back just real quick to how we're learning on a physical level that the heart actually thinks. There's aspects of the heart that can think. I love it, connecting things like this. So the Hebrews, yes, the Hebrew language is that the heart is the seat. It's the seat of our emotions. It drives our motivation. That's where we'll find our motives of our heart. So I took that proverb and I broke it down even more. I looked at some of the key words in that proverb and looked at the original Hebrew language in that as well. In my book, I expound on this just a little bit. I'm going to read to you from our first chapter, and it says, when I broke this down, it says to guard and keep watch over your heart, your inner self, with all diligence. It is the place of confinement and observation. For out of it, out of what now? Your inner self, out of your heart, out of this inner life, flow the issues, the outgoings, and the expressions of your life. For out of your heart, out of this 95%, out of your heart, flow the issues, the outgoings, and the expressions of your life. Out of your heart. If you are liking this conversation about heart conversations, as we explore this a little bit more, you may want to go ahead and get yourself a copy of The Power of Heart Conversations. It's available on digital as well as paperback. I'll be also recording an audio version of it too in the upcoming future, but I just want you to know that there's more that you can glean from there. But let's dive back in to wrapping up this particular video. And we want to talk about the importance of embracing these heart conversations. You know, you're learning that our heart and our brain talk to one another. They speak to one another. And sometimes they're in agreement. Sometimes they're in agreement with fear, right? Sometimes they're in agreement with love and trust. I think we know the difference. We can feel the difference. But I want us to take a look here that it's really, really important that we do slow down to where we can take a look and become aware of this inner dialogue. What are your heart conversations communicating? What are they saying? And words alone, they are not the full picture. I know we want them to be. Sometimes we want them to be because we don't want to. Yeah, let me rephrase that. I start to say sometimes we don't want to reveal what's really going into our heart. But remember, 95% we're unaware of until we slow down and become aware of what's going on in our heart. So sometimes we just deflect with words so quickly. But the words are not the full picture. This heart and brain connection is so vital when it comes to living the Christ life from the inside out. I was looking at my notes to see if there's anything that I wanted to say as we get ready to close this video out, but I ask, do your words always match what is being experienced in your heart? And then I ask, what do you think speaks louder? And I think all of us can say, no, my words don't always match what's going on in my heart. What is speaking louder? What's 5,000 times greater? I was looking at my screen. What's that 5,000 times greater it's what's emanating from your heart. Now, you might fool somebody. You may be able to fool somebody with your words. You may be able to tell somebody you're fine, or you may be able to tell somebody you like something, or you didn't mean that. But your heart knows the truth. The Lord knows the truth. The motive of your heart. The motive of your heart. Are you trying to self-protect, or are your words and your heart truly lining up? I'm inviting us to pay closer attention to that. For your life work in this episode, we're learning to tune in. We're learning to tune into the heart. Taking this Proverbs and really starting to live it out. What is coming in and what is going out of your heart? What are you allowing in? What is coming out? Can you commit to, are you willing? I know you can. Let me ask that in a different way. Are you willing to commit to spending a few moments each day and just start practicing tuning into your heart? Where are you? If we're going to learn how to guard our heart with all diligence, we must first become aware of what is coming in and going out of the heart. You know, it really is like this radio signal. Remember how I shared with you, I'll come back here for a moment. Remember how I shared with you the heart and the brain are constantly connected and they're constantly communicating to one another. This is another thing that I learned from heart math that I thought is so fascinating, and I need to remind myself of this from time to time. It's so good. So if you have that connection, it is like the tuning a radio. And when you're feeling anxious or you're feeling afraid and something really grips your heart and it throws the signal off, and it's throwing off a calm and peace nervous system into putting you into that stress response. Well, there's not a clear, calm, creative communication now from the heart to the brain because you're afraid. And it creates a static. It's almost like you're in between stations. So there isn't a clear signal. That's why when you know something intellectually, something has been programmed, something you know, if you get afraid, you may not be able to recall it or recall it as easily because now there's static in the signal. The best thing to do is to calm the heart. And we'll be talking about that too in future episodes. But how to calm that vagus nerve, how to calm that heart so that you can reestablish the signal. So again, for your life work, we're going to tune in to what's coming in and what's going out. Let's begin to become aware, because out of it, out of your heart, flow the issues of your life. We get so upset sometimes with things that are happening around us, and we fail to see what's truly flowing in and out of our heart. Let's learn to guard that. Let's learn to be more diligent with that. There's much more with the Power of Heart Conversations coming up in future videos, but I truly appreciate your time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone.